military ratings reduced for feeling better? Yeah, it sounds familiar because we already discussed that a while back. We've been getting a lot of feedback, however, when it came to the VA dropping the interim final rule on February 17th. Bottom line up front, the people got a huge W because of your feedback and advocacy. So we're going to complete this series with a breakdown and what battles remain within the VA. The VA quietly dropped a rule that would have cut your disability rating, not because your condition got better, but because the medication was working. 9 days later, it was dead. Here's what the SCIIF needs you to understand. You almost missed it. Most veterans did not hear about this rule until after it dropped. No public comment period, no 30-day notice, no announcement. They called it the interim final, which means it was already in effect the moment it was published. And that is exactly why the SCIIF exists. It's why we're here. When any agency moves quietly, we click and spark for your situational awareness, so you know. Today, we're going to break down the full after action review, what the rule was, what happened in those 9 days, why veterans won this time, and then what battles are still running right now. This is part 4 of the VA series. Lorraine, internet is going crazy with this one. Please let our folks know why out there.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. For anyone joining us for the very first time, parts 1 through 3 of your civilian armor series broke down the original threat in detail. Today is the resolution, but I'm going to give you everything you need to understand it, even if this is your first briefing with us. Here's the situation. On February 17, 2026, the Department of Veteran Affairs published what's called an Interim Final Rule. Now, here's why that terminology matters. A normal federal regulation requires a public comment period, usually 60 days. Veterans groups, advocacy organizations, and the public get to weigh in before the rule takes effect. Interim Final Rule skips that process entirely. It is effective immediately upon publication. So what did this specific rule say? In plain language, VA disability examiners were permitted to rate a veteran's condition based on how the veteran presented during the exam, including while actively taking the medication. Previously, the standard was to evaluate the condition at its baseline, meaning what the condition looks like without the full effect of medication masking symptoms. Under the new rule, if a veteran with severe PTSD, for example, took their medication before the exam and appeared calm and functional during a 20-minute evaluation, the examiner could justify a lower rating. Read that carefully. The better your treatment worked, the less your rating reflected your actual condition. Treatment success became a financial penalty. That was the rule. Now, let me give you the operational timeline of what happened next. February 17, 2026, VA publishes Interim Final Rule, no public comment period, effective immediately. Same day, the Disabled American Veterans releases formal opposition statement within hours. Later on that day, Paralyzed Veterans of America issues statement of concern. 2 days later, on the 19th, just 48 hours after publication, VA announces it is halting enforcement of the rule. Then on February 24th, Congressional Coalition, led by Representative Mark Takano, demands the VA formally rescind, not pause, the rule. February 26th, VA files Federal Registered Notice to formally rescind the Interim Final Rule. 9 days done. So 9 days from publication to rescindment. In federal bureaucracy terms, that is remarkable speed. The question is, why did it move that fast? And Chief's going to answer that for us.
Lorraine just gave you the what. I want to give you the why. Because understanding why veterans won this battle is not just about a feel-good story. It is about the tactical lesson that will determine whether we will win the next one. And trust me, there will be a next one. There are 3 reasons veterans won this in 9 days flat. Reason number 1, advocacy. Organizations had standing and they moved immediately. No waiting. They didn't take their time. They got right after it. The DAV and the Paralyzed Veterans of America did not wait for public opinion to build. They did not wait for the news cycle to catch up. They released formal statements within hours of publication. That is key. That matters because formal statements from established organizations carry legal and political weight that individual voices alone do not. This is not a social media anger. This was a organized, credentialed opposition, and the VA knew it. Reason number two, Congress had a legal argument and they used it. The interim final rule bypassed the public comment period. That gave legislators a clean, specific legal basis to demand rescindment. Not just a strongly worded letter, but a actual procedural argument. Representative Takano's coalition didn't just say, this rule is unfair. They said, this rule violated established rulemaking procedures and must be formally withdrawn. That's the kind of pressure that we need, and it worked. Reason number three, and this one is personal to me and probably a lot of veterans out there. Veterans were informed. I'll say that again. Veterans were informed. You cannot fight what you don't know about. The VA published this rule without fanfare, without a press release, without outreach to the veteran community. But veteran media, podcasts such as ours, the SCIIF, shout out to the SCIIF, advocacy letters, channels like the ones that we've named before, surfaced it immediately. And because our audience stays in the briefing, and that is not a small thing, an uninformed veteran community doesn't push back in 48 hours. They find out 6 months later at a CMPN exam, and when their rating has already been cut, information is armor. That is not a metaphor. That is exactly what happened. So here's the after action lesson that I want everyone to take note of and take heed to. The system can be moved. It can be moved. We proved it, all us veterans together. But it only moves when veterans are organized, organized, credentialed, and advocacy groups have standing. Congress has a legal hook, and the community is informed in real time. All four conditions were met. That's why 9 days was enough. All right. Now to our fearless leader, Michaela is going to tell you about what is still on the battlefield, because this battle was won, this one, but not the end of the war.
The IFR is gone. I want you to feel that win because it's real. I need you to clearly hear what I'm about to say just as clearly. This is not over. There are 3 active threats on the battlefield right now, and every veteran with an open claim, a pending appeal, or a service-connected condition needs to know about them. Threat 1. The VA AI fraud scanner. The VA is currently running artificial intelligence tools to scan disability benefits questionnaires, DBQs, for what they're flagging as fraud patterns. What does this mean in practice? If your medical evidence was prepared using a template, if your language looks similar to other veterans' claims, the AI can flag it potentially as fraudulent. Here's the problem with that. Veterans often use the same language because they have the same conditions. And because advocates and medical professionals use standardized language for a reason, that is how medical documentation works. But the AI does not know the difference between fraudulent template and a legitimate one. If your DBQ gets flagged, your claim goes into review, your rating could be paused, reduced, or challenged. SCIIF will have a full briefing on exactly what to do about this, but right now, if you have an open claim or a recent rating, this is not time to be passive. Threat 2, the Major Richard Starr Act, still blocked. If you don't know what the Major Richard Starr Act is, here's a short version. When a veteran is medically retired due to a combat-related disability, they are currently forced to choose between their military retirement pay and their VA disability compensation. They cannot receive both in full. The difference is called the wounded veteran tax. The Major Richard Starr Act would eliminate that offset for combat injured veterans. It's been introduced. It has had bipartisan support. It has been blocked repeatedly from passing into law. Why does this matter right now? Because as of this recording, 7 American service members were killed and additional personnel were wounded in Operation Epic Fury. More service members are coming home from active operations with wounds, and without the Major Richard Starr Act, they walk into the same broken system that has existed for decades. Threat 3, VA mental health staffing. More than half of VA medical centers currently report significant shortages in mental health professionals, specifically psychologists and psychiatrists. This means longer wait times, fewer appointments, more veterans going without care. And as more service members return from active operations, that gap is going to get wider before it gets small. The IFR is gone, but the fight for veteran health and benefits, that is a permanent mission.
Here's the bottom line, you guys. 9 days, veterans organized, advocacy groups moved, Congress applied pressure, and the VA reversed course on one of the most dangerous rules that they have tried to push through in years. That is what this community is capable of. But B said it right, and I need you to carry this out for the rest of the episode. You cannot win the battles that you do not know are being fought. This is why we exist. This is why the advocacy groups exist right now. And this is why you subscribe to this channel and channels like that, because they are going to give you the information you need in order to know what you're advocating for, to stay combat ready for the fights that are coming. Before you leave, I need you to do the following things. 1, if this episode gave you the intel that you needed out there, drop a part 4 in the comments right now. That's how I know that you guys heard us, you're in the fight, and you want us to keep this series running. 2, share this episode with one veteran member, one service member, a family member who's advocating for the veterans, somebody who needs to hear it. One share. That's all we're asking, and that's your mission, okay? Number 3, subscribe and hit the notification bell, because the VA AI fraud scanner, shout out to my cousin Marty Kaiser, U.S. Navy, retired. He called me. He was like, hey, man, I need you to do something on this. So that's coming next. And that affects every veteran with a claim in review. You do not want to miss that one. This has been a SCIIF International podcast. Remember, SCIIF is Situations and Conversations Inspiring Intellectual Future, where the briefings are not going to stop. And as my father, Milton Kelsey, United States Navy Vietnam veteran, used to say, to be aware is to be alive, and to be alive is to be aware. And I wish I could hear him say that today. All right? You guys be safe out there. Out.